أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. So Alhamdulillah, we are now back with our tafsir of Surah Fatiha, and we're now entering the ayat of the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala we are praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or perhaps Allah is inspiring us to pray to Him in this way that, oh Allah, make us one of those who have been given your ni'mats and amta alayhim. So we want to understand who are these people who are blessed. What is Allah's blessing, and what do we understand by being the successful ones? And that's why it's important to get some feel from the Quran itself about who are the blessed ones, who are the ones who've been gifted. And we see that in Quran again and again, when there is the mention of those who are blessed, there are certain descriptions given. And as you all know that when I try to do the, I try to find the deeper insights into Quran, then our way of doing it is through doing it through the present moment of how we can extrapolate an understanding of the Quran which is applicable for us right now. And I constantly talk about how we want to be able to see the results of our work right here, right now, and also to be able to feel the difference of those who have been gifted, those who are the ones who've been blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm just gonna fix the slide. So what I was inspired to share with you all today was an ayat of the Quran, which is ayat number 23 of Surah Al-Hajj. And recently I've been really inspired by the whole rituals of Hajj, because for me, I'm starting to see that Hajj is like a very microcosmic symbology of the journey that we're on. And it's really beautiful how, whether it's namaz or whether it's Hajj or whether it's, any of these rituals, they have this symbolic microcosm in there for this journey that we're intending to, go into and move into towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now in this ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, indeed, Allah will admit those who have faith and do righteous deeds into gardens with streams running in them, adorned therein with bracelets of gold and pearl, and their dress therein will be silk. Now, the ayat, I will read it in Arabic. Inna Allah yadkhilul ladina amanu wa amilu salihati jannatin tajri min tahtiha al-anhar. Now, my focus today is on this word, tahtiha al-anhar, because tahta in Arabic means under. But so we usually see gardens with streams running in them. This is the description that we hear of the Jannah, right? So Jannatin tajri min tahtiha al-anhar. Gardens with streams running in them. Now, what I'm trying to see here is that Jannat, we said, is a place which is hidden. Jinn and Jannah comes from the word which means that which is hidden. And tahta means under. Now, if you look at the direct translation over here, it says with, gardens with streams running in them, even though tahta means under. Tahta and fawqa. Fawqa is, above. Tahta is under. This is the basic opposites that we're taught when we do Arabic language. So over here it's saying that there's a Jannat, there's a hidden place with anhar, streams running under them. This is how I would translate it. And I just want to check one more meaning before I proceed of the word tajri. If you guys like to go deeper into Quran, there's a beautiful application like this. It's called My Quran. And what it does is that it gives you the root words and really deep meanings of the words. I'm just going to look this up. Surah number 22, ayat number 23. Okay. So I'm going to go to find the root word of tajri actually. Okay, so this is how then, you can see the root words with really deep meanings in there. So tajri means to flow, run quickly, pursue a course, to happen or occur, to be take or to aim for a thing, to be continuous or permanent, to send a deputy or commissioned agent. Now over here, this is what they say, that there is a place which is hidden. Over there is a flow, to flow, and what is flowing there? There are streams under there. Now, during my Muharram sessions, in one of the talks, I did a little bit of insight into the story of Hazrat Sulaiman and Lady Shiba, and I discussed about how when Bibi Bilqis or Hazrat Shiba, when she comes to the palace of Hazrat Sulaiman, she finds herself picking up her skirt because she's walking on the floor and she's seeing that there is streams of water running under the glass floor, and she thinks that she's walking on it. So I talked a little bit about that over there. What I want to talk about over here is why is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps bringing up this idea of gardens which have streams running under them, not in them, but under them. تحتها الأنهار. And for me, it is an insight that the place which is hidden within us is a heaven within us, right? The inner states within us. We've been discussing that the hereafter is the world within us. And if we can do this, which Allah is asking us, that Allah will admit those who have faith and do righteous deeds into gardens with streams running under them, then we need to see a few things over here which Allah is constantly repeating. Even in Surah Kahf, Allah has repeated this and many other places. And the hidden place within us, which we are calling the Jannah, can be created through our inner work. When we do this inner work through, number one, having faith, and number two, doing good deeds, then we enter a state. We enter a hidden state within us, which is always available, which Allah is calling Jannat. Now, Jannat, we know, is called heaven, but Jannat comes from the hidden. Now, we enter this hidden spa or a hidden sanctuary within us, where the rivers are flowing under. This river is the river of knowledge, because in spiritual work, we use the symbology of knowledge as the river or water. Water is taken as the element of knowledge. So we have the four elements: fire, water, earth, and air. And water is taken as knowledge. And if we take water as knowledge, then we're seeing that there are streams of knowledge running underneath this place. So over here, we're seeing that the underneath is signifying something under the surface. Imagine, I've struggled to imagine this for a very long time. Imagine thinking of a river flowing under the surface of the land. So there is a land, and it's saying underneath the rivers are flowing. And I apologize that I'm repeating myself so much, because I'm trying to get back into the, my feel of the class, because I've had a gap, and also I'm struggling to share my thoughts. I'm trying to put them into words. So I really apologize. So now we're seeing that under the land, if water is flowing, it's a very difficult thing to understand, because the land is a dense thing. The zameen is a dense thing. You walk on it, and there are piles of soil. Then how is there going to be running water underneath? So we're trying to see that this is something quite impossible, physically speaking, unless you go into the science of the underground wells, and the underground streams, and how do they flow. But for a general mind, for a layman, it's a difficult concept to grasp on a physical level. But if it's not a physical idea, and if it's a metaphysical idea, then we understand that under the surface, what lies is the deep, is the depth, which is the hidden. And rivers of knowledge are given to those who are able to enter a realm where the hidden is manifested to them. And we've been talking about the esoteric, the knowledge of the unseen, the underneath the surface, which means exoteric is the surface knowledge, and esoteric is the hidden knowledge. And the hadith of the Holy Prophet ﷺ says, that the one who commits himself to dedicating everything to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in actions and in intentions for 40 days, then streams, fountains of knowledge will open, of wisdom, fountains of wisdom will be open to their heart. So do you see the connection of this hadith with this ayat, that the one who dedicates themselves to Allah, then streams of wisdom, fountains of wisdom will open in their heart. And here Allah is saying that the ones who will have faith and who will do good deeds, then there will be streams running under the garden for them. So when we enter this state, that inner state of heavenliness, of connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then these fountains of knowledge open to us underneath, in the hidden realm, not in the exoteric. This knowledge doesn't exist on the outside. This knowledge exists within us. And so then that knowledge is something that nourishes us, that quenches the thirst of the seeker from within, not from the outside. And so the answers start to emerge from within. Wisdom comes from within. But we are so used to our attachments to the outside world that we will look always for answers in books, in teachers, and in external experiences. Now, I want to share something from this book, The Garden of Truth by Sayyid Hussain Nasr. And Sayyid Hussain Nasr is explaining the stages of moving towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he says that there are final stages in the journey of a wayfarer, which are fana and baqa. Now, fana means annihilation, and baqa means to be preserved and to become immortal forever. All right? So they're completely two opposites. But these are the final stages of the one who is now the successful one, which is an'amta alaihim. So in order to be able to enter this field of baqa or fana, which is the final state, he says that, I'm going to read through this. Through the threshold of what the Sufis call annihilation or extinction, al-fana, humanity is able to enter the garden of truth and to subsist in God, which is baqa. The absolutely necessary condition for entering remains the realization that in ourselves we are non-existent, and that all being belongs to God. The Khurasani Sufi Kharaqani said,
A true Sufi is he who is not. A true Sufi is he who is not. It was in this state that Rumi sang, "We are non-existence appearing as existence. Thou art absolute being appearing as the perishable." Now, what he's saying here is that I am nothing and I'm appearing as I exist. But you are absolute being. You are always going to exist. But you are appearing as perishable. How is Allah appearing as perishable? We're going to go into that in a bit. So we're entering this discussion now where we started our discussion into Anamta Alaihim, those who have been gifted. Allah constantly says the ones who are gifted are the ones who have faith and who do righteous deeds. And I'm avoiding this discussion on what is faith and what is righteous deeds. We've talked about it a lot. Maybe we can come back to it later. But the result is that they enter gardens, hidden Jannah, which is within ourselves, which is our inner states. When we do inner work, we are able to connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without the negative emotions of hate, jealousy, anger, resentment, which burden us and weigh us down and make us feel heavy. And when we get rid of these through healing work, through inner work, through introspection, through dhikr, then we enter a state which takes us into a feeling of lightness, of luminosity, and also weightlessness. We don't feel burdened. We feel very light, airy. And that feeling of being in Jannah, that inner state of being in a state of heavenliness, is also accompanied with streams that are running underneath. Streams running underneath, therefore, the word tahta over here was very important for me because tahta then is underneath the surface, the esoteric, the within, the unseen knowledge, right? And then some people can call it ilm laduni, which is also mentioned in the Quran. And then we're saying that to reach that state of accessing this wisdom, this fountain of wisdom, this inner knowledge, this connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Sayyid Hussain Nasr is talking about entering the garden of truth, which is this Jannah that we're talking about. And he's saying that the truth is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we are non-existent. And so in order to be able to experience this connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to dedicate everything to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, results in a state of fana and baqa. So we're going to look at fana and baqa. Now, fana and baqa are two opposites. And fana then is saying, I am nothing, so I don't exist. I'm an illusion. I don't have a reality. And baqa then is a state of being immortalized, of living forever. Now, a very controversial Sufi by the name of Hallaj said these words for which he was persecuted. And he said, "He am I whom I love. He whom I love is I. Two spirits in one single body dwelling. So seest thou me, then seest thou him. And seest thou him, then seest thou us." So what he's saying over here is that this Sufi talk of, saying that all I see is Allah and therefore I only see Allah even if it is me, basically. And how is he saying that? We can prove that through the ayat of the Quran, which is, wherever you turn is the face of God. Aynama tawallu wajhullah. I don't know if I'm getting the Arabic right. Wherever you turn, you see the face of God. So wherever we turn, we are only going to see Allah manifesting himself. That is why Rumi is saying, thou art absolute being appearing as the perishable. You are the one who I see, but you're constantly perishing, but you're absolute in existence. So the flower that emerges as a manifestation of God's beauty, it comes into existence and then it goes away. And a new flower comes. So there's a constant perishing that we see. And then we're seeing that Allah is the one who's the only existence. So Ibn Arabi has said a beautiful line where he says, Allah is the one who manifests himself through his veils and who veils himself behind his manifestations. So Allah is showing himself through the beauty of the flower but then the flower perishes and a new flower emerges. We live a certain life, and then we die. And then new human beings are born all the time, and then they have a limited life. So everything in the physical realm is perishing, and yet it is manifesting the absolute, which is always existing. So over here, we're trying to tap into a way of looking at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, at existence, at our own beings, in a way so that we start to go a little deeper under the surface. Going under the surface then means that we start to decode everything that we see around us. And we start to say, okay, there is a flower, but there is something this flower is showing to me which is deeper underneath. So this journey into the underneath, the tahtihal anhar, the underneath the surface, is a knowledge which starts to show us a different reality altogether. It starts to reveal to us a completely different picture of this world that we're living in. That's why they say that, those who are closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they start to live in a completely different world. They're living in a different existence altogether. They have climbed into a different dimension of reality, right? So now we're seeing that this annihilation then is me saying, I'm really nothing, but Allah is everything. So we look at ourselves and we say, I'm going to perish, I'm going to die, I'm not going to exist. But what is going to exist is going to be Him. So that's why I want to bring in one more idea over here, which is the idea of Allah's names and what is the foreverness of it, the eternity of it, the infinity of it. And when we think of God, we think of this idea of the existence of the universe, and we say there was a big bang and things came into existence, and then there was a time when Adam was created, and then Adam came on the planet Earth. If we put a timeline to this, then some scholars say it was just hardly 5,000 years ago that Prophet Adam came on Earth. And then there's a whole discussion on the dinosaurs and, all of that, like how long has Earth existed and all that. So in our minds, the existence of world has a timeline. It has a beginning, and then we talk about Qiyamah, then we talk about the apocalypse, or we talk about the sun will come really close, the earth is going to be, all these mountains will become like cotton, and the perishing of the earth, the perishing of this existence. So we give it a timeline, the beginning and the end. So we're talking about a fana, we're talking about an annihilation, a perishing of our existence. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in baqa. He is constant and He is forever and He is infinite. So then we see that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Khaliq, He's the creator. So the earth got created, the Big Bang happened, the dinosaurs came and then we came. So there's a timeline to our existence. So we're saying Allah is the Khaliq, He's the creator. He creates out of nothing, He's the Al-Bari. But then we need to say that Allah is Al-Khaliq in infinity. Allah is Al-Khaliq in forever. There's no beginning to Him being Al-Khaliq. For as long as God has existed, which is unlimited time, there's no beginning. For as long as He has existed, His qualities and characters have existed. His names have existed. His intrinsic essence has existed. So if He has existed forever, then that means that He has been a Khaliq forever. He has been creating forever. So if He has been creating forever, and He is talking about His creations to us, which includes Adam, then that means that there has been an existence to Adam, to earth, to these phenomena that we see around us, the perishing of the flower and the existence of the flower forever. So now we're seeing that there is a creation and there's a perishing happening in forever, because Allah is forever. So we cannot put an existence to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our minds when we talk about the beginning of the earth. Allah is before that, far, far, far before that. But Allah's qualities have also been forever. And therefore, we have to come to an understanding, and this is something I am speaking after talking, researching with a lot of scholars, reading books, and also a hadith of Imam Jafar Sadiq, where we understand that we're not the only species to have existed. There has been a lot before us and a lot after us. And therefore, this existence is in continuous process. There is no beginning, there's no end. It's an infinite process. And the takhliq of God, the creation of God has been also forever. Coming back to our discussion here, again in Fana and Baqa now, is that this gives us a glimpse into the foreverness of God's existence and the nothingness of our existence. So my annihilation and God's foreverness. But the people of God now, they are going to enter a state of baqa. They are going to enter a state of foreverness. So Allah says that you will enter this heaven where you will live forever, right? Khalidina fiha. Khalidina fiha, as in forever you are going to live here. Allah it's not in this ayat, but in most of the ayats, Allah says Khalidina fiha. They're going to be there forever. They're going to live there forever. And it is a jannat, and it is got rivers underneath it. And then Allah says in this particular ayat, adorned therein with bracelets of gold and pearl. Now we want to decode this gold and we want to decode this pearl. In this present moment, what is the state of the servant of God who has gold and pearl, right? Whose identity in the pearl, the bracelet that you're wearing, it has an adornment, it is embellished with gold and pearl. Now, we take all these things as very superficial, and we talk about it in a way as if this is exactly what we are going to get in a physical body. And recently I had a discussion with somebody who found it quite amusing that that my research and in my study, I believe that we're not going to be resurrected, or like our existence is going to be this physical existence with flesh and blood, even though there are discussions on it, and different scholars have different opinions about it, and some do believe that we will be in flesh and bone and blood in the hereafter. But to be able to enter higher dimensions, then the density of our existence has to be perishing. It has to go for us to go to a higher reality. And to go to a higher reality, then our gifts or our rewards or our jannats have to be less material and more of a higher existence, of a higher substance. The quality, the characteristics of that life, like we talk about the fauna and the flora in biology, and we study zoology, and we look at the characteristics, of that particular grouping of that fauna or flora. And we say, we categorize this one as a crustacean and this one as amphibian and this one. So we are finding these characteristics. The characteristics of our existence in the higher realm, therefore, has to be different, because now we're entering a different dimension, a higher dimension. And to be closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a higher dimension would mean a completely different character. So now because we're discussing Fana and Baqa, I'm going into these dry details. We're understanding now that for a friend of God who has faith, a friend of God who is understanding the deeper realities of going under the surface, of going beyond the veil of the dense dunya, of the heavy material existence, and going into more sublime, more subtle realities. For example, in dreams, we are not as dense, right? We go there and we understand that these bracelets of gold and pearl surely should mean something deeper for the one who's seeking something deeper. You see, the mystics in this dunya, you see them wearing coarse cotton clothing, and they'll have a staff because they're so weak. They don't eat much. They don't have attachment to the food. and they're very happy with solitude, and they don't have very lavish lives. And you see that they have detached themselves from this dunya. You look at the example of Imam Ali, you know, we see that they're not attached to these things. And money and gold and all these things don't attract them. If a person has reached a state where they're not into those things, then how can we make the very thing which doesn't attract them into their reward? You understand what I'm saying? How can a gold bracelet with pearl and with pearl, a gold bracelet with pearls, be a reward for somebody who has no interest in gold and pearl? And so we kind of feel like Allah is talking about a different reality over here. And this reality now, therefore, has to have some deeper sense, a deeper meaning. And because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is full of wisdom and He doesn't waste His words. So for me, the bracelets of gold and pearl have significant meanings over here. And then they will be adorned with the dresses of silks, libasahum fiha harir. So now gold is the symbol of alchemy, right? And Ibn Arabi talks in detail about alchemy, the process of alchemization. And alchemy is where a very low and very insignificant, invaluable metal like lead, which is poisonous, transforms into a very precious metal, which is gold. You know, we hear the ilme kimia, which is the knowledge of alchemy. And we say that, Bibi Fizza, the helper who stayed with Bibi Fatmatul Zahra, was a princess from Africa, and she had the knowledge of alchemy. She had the knowledge of ilme kimia. So gold, therefore, then becomes all-time symbol of this alchemy, where the lowest nafs within us, which is the nafse amara, becomes nafsul zakiya or nafsul razia. It reaches a higher state. And this alchemy, this changing, this transformation of my nafs, which is completely drenched in an attachment to the dunya, and steeped in sin, steeped in inner pollution, then starts to unveil and let go of its coverings of sin. And in our work that we've been doing, sin are the layers and the veils of heedlessness, veils of negative emotions, negative feelings, whatever we're carrying, the burdens within our heart. These are the veils, and which prevent us from reaching the haqq. And so we see that as those veils come off, and the nufus, the nafs amara and nafsul lawama and nafsul mulhama, there's a transition from a lower state of nafs entering a higher state of nafs, which is nafsul radhiya, marziya, zakiya, right? And that journey, therefore, becomes the journey of alchemy. That is significant of gold. So every time we look at gold, we wear jewelry now, we want to be reminded of an intention of wanting to become gold and not just wear gold. We want to become the purified metal, where we know that gold nowadays is used for healing. Gold is used as medicine. It's been used for a long time, but we're seeing that it's used in beauty products, 24 karat gold, some skin cream, something, because gold has that value. It has an intrinsic quality of healing. And gold, therefore, signifies this highest state of baqa. Why? Because we know that we wear gold knowing it will not tarnish. It will be my kind of forever investment. Gold doesn't ever lose its value. It always it's always, gaining value. It's an investment. So gold has all of these symbologies which become a sign for the one who's seeking truth, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Sanurihim ayatina fil afaq. I have kept my signs in the horizons, in this world, for you to ponder, for you to learn, if only you reflect. And so living an intentional life then means that we go beyond the surface. We tap into the deeper knowledge. We tap into the deeper understanding of this life and what we see around us. And for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the example of gold then means to use this gold now as, again, a signpost, a reminder, a sign which is holding a deeper wisdom within it, which is saying, come back. You have to be on a journey to inner purification, to a journey of alchemy, to a journey of, climbing up this ladder of working on yourself into purification. So gold, therefore, is a state of being healed of all the inner debris, all the inner, baggage, lug that we've been, carrying within us, that is preventing us to reach a state of shukr, state of gratitude, state of contentment, and state of a connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then we move into the pearl. So now the pearl, we all know, is hidden inside an oyster, and it takes a lot of effort into going, what do they say? Like, I had to go into the 7 depths of the ocean to find this pearl. When the prince talks to the princess and says, I had to do all that to get you the pearl. So the pearl is significant of, again, going deeper, going under the surface, and then going into a journey of searching for the truth. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is promising those who are now successful, and Alaihim, on which Allah's gifts have been showered, that you will be given pearls. Pearls of what? We say pearls of wisdom. Now, pearl, therefore, is significant of something very deep, something deep within, under so many layers of, even if you look at the ocean, and if we take ocean as knowledge, then even to reach the pearl, you have to go under so many levels of that ocean, and then find that oyster. And then when that oyster opens, you find the pearl. And it's not in the first go. You open so many oysters, and then somewhere you'll find a pearl. So it's a very, very precious and very rare and very labor intensive, hard work. A lot of effort is going into reaching this treasure. And Allah is saying, I'm going to give you that. So we want to realize that, okay, I will alchemize, I will do this work, but then there will be a special gift for those who do this work. It will be rare pearls of knowledge, rare pearls of wisdom, and rare glimpses of reality, and hence rare glimpses of the manifestation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course, I want to remind you that all of this is possible in this realm, in this reality, in our existence in this dunya. And then coming to the libasahum fiha harir. Now, if we go to the root word of harir, harir means to be free, as in you're not a slave, freeborn, emancipated, liberated, right? And we're seeing that it's been translated as silk over here. So we can take both these meanings. And in Muharram, we talk about Hazrat Hur alayhi salam. So this garment of freedom that Hazrat Hur alayhi salam wore is what is being talked about over here. So the freedom of what Imam Ali says, that there is the worship of the one who's the slave of God, who's doing the worship of being a slave, who is slave because he's only worshipping because he wants to be free of the fire of hell. And then there is the worship of the one who is worshipping in the greed of heaven. So it's a transaction, it's a business transaction. Then there's the worship of the one who is free. Now, this worship of the free is what we're talking about here. وَلِبَاسٌ فِيهَا حَرِيرٌ, of freedom, a garment of freedom. And that freedom is the one where you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because you enter a state where you find God worthy of worship. You know, we are trying to bring up our children and we struggle with bringing them up in a way where we want them to pray namaz and we give them rewards and we try to, give them incentives. Ye kar lo, you do this, I'll give you this if you pray, I'll give you that if you pray, if you do your rosa, I'll help you, I'll do this and that. These are rewards. Then there comes a stage where you're like, if you don't do this, you're in trouble, buddy. I'm going to do this or that. I've got a teenage daughter. I've got to do that stuff sometimes. But then there is this inner desire for us to bring up our children in a way so that they want to worship. They want to pray. They do it of their own inner free will, And the taste of that worship for that human being, is completely different because it's being done out of this desire to connect, this wanting to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is freedom. That is freedom of any incentive or any fear. This is done out of the purity of an inner pure desire, pure intention. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that I will be giving you this. This is going to be the state of the one who enters the fana and the baqa, the one who is anamta alaihim, this gift of freedom. And if you hear a lot of these scholars, philosophers, people who are thinkers, they will always write that the greatest gift for the soul is the yearning of freedom, is the freedom itself. Soul yearns freedom. That's why, I was listening to Sheikh Fazlallah some time ago, and he said that the reason we desire to travel and to have this freedom to travel is because deep within ourselves, our soul wants to be free. It wants to have the freedom to move around, to be like a bird, to fly. That's why the spirit in the elements is air. That you are, the spirit is signified through the symbol of air. Like we said, that water signifies knowledge, spirit is significant, is symbolized through air. And this freedom of harir, this freedom of being in servitude of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala out of your own free will is the greatest gift, is the highest form of worship. And in Quran, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, La ikraha fid deen, there is no force in religion, this is what it's saying, that you come into surrender, you come into a servitude out of your own freedom and free will. You do it because you want to do it. And that is the biggest gift. So we find ourselves in our daily lives caught up in things that busy us, social media, our phones, Instagram, work, home, love of our children, love of our spouse, love of our parents, it keeps us busy. And we get caught up in this dunya and things pull us down and pull us away from taking the time to come into this state of worship. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that you keep striving and you keep having this faith and you keep doing the good that you're doing. And then it is my promise that I will show you the inner realities of the inner beauty, of inner connection, where you will be quenched, your thirst will be quenched through these rivers of wisdom and knowledge, and you will be adorned, you will be decorated with this alchemy. I like the word adorn, which is used here, because you see, you meet certain friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you meet them and you feel their energy. You just see their beauty, you know. You just look at them and you're like, oh wow, they've got so much nur on their face, they've got so much light coming through them, and you just feel their presence calming you and bringing a sense of relaxation. And you know, there are teachers like that I've met who are so amazing that you just want to be in their presence. And that's why I feel like with Zoom, you know, there's this uh, distance from, you know, their presence. In their presence you feel that. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has adorned them with that beauty of the bright light, the shining beauty of the gold. You know, you just, you know, you meet a person and you're like, oh, you're such a gem. You know, it's like you're gold, you're a treasure, you know. And so Allah adorns you with that beauty of gold, the alchemy and the pearl, that now you see them and they're rare. These people are rare, you know, they're rare like that pearl from the oyster. And then you see that they are free. You get this feeling of freedom from them. You know, like they don't give you a feeling of suffocation. They don't constrict you. You can have the space to say what you feel like saying and not be judged. And you just feel like you can be yourself with them. So you find this freedom. And, you know, I love that quote of Marianne Williamson, where she says that, you know, when you shine your light, you give freedom to other people to shine theirs as well. And you help people break out of these chains of being bound by this herd mentality of what Allah is saying in the Quran, that, you know, they're like an arm, you know, they're like the sheep, the herd, the cattle. That no, they're even worse than the cattle, because they're like shackled into the programming of how the world is working, and you don't feel freedom. You know, you're caught up in this keeping up with the Joneses, and you're running the rat race in the hamster wheel, and you feel so imprisoned. So the one who becomes fana in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will find baqa in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The one who will perish and finish themselves, they will let go of their identity and they will let go of their restricted, you know, way of doing life, which is what everybody else is doing. Then they enter and their focus is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and their focus is only goodness of the inner. Then they let go of themselves, realizing I'm really nothing. I'm really nothing. I really don't control anything. Nothing is really in my hands. But I am only subsisting. I'm only existing. I'm only surviving because my Allah has given me this existence. He is my sustenance. And this happens in our times of extreme faqr, like extreme, you know, we enter states of extremely being needy. And that state of neediness comes not when, you know, we don't have enough money. Can happen when we don't have money and we're not able to get by. But a lot of us, you know, at least over here, we may have experienced that, and I don't want to dismiss that. You know, we go through different phases in life. I know people who have been through these stages in life. But when things are completely out of our control, you know, you have the money, but you can't find the healing. You know, you're physically sick. You have the money and your child wants to get married, but you can't find the right spouse. You're feeling desperate. You know, you have the money, but you can't travel, like in COVID. You know, you're just restricted. You just can't. The circumstances don't allow you. You can't hug your loved one. You can't make it to the funeral, you know. All these things, when they happen and they're out of our control, then that state of complete helplessness becomes a gift of realizing I'm nothing. I'm really nothing. I can perish any moment. You know, this corona has put that sense of death in us. You can die any day, any minute. I'm perishable. I'm fana. I'm nothing. I don't have an existence. I don't have a reality. I will be soil tomorrow. I'll be dust. But what will subsist, what will stay forever, what will be baki forever is going to be God. So the word baqa then means to stay on, to stay baki, to be forever. But baqa also means protection. When we let go of the identity of the self, then we get protected and immortalized in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore, we see that the saints and mystics of God who were meant to bring light into the world, they have gone physically, but their existence has stayed on forever. Like we look at our prophets, we look at, the Imam Hussain alayhi salam, we look at Rumi, we look at all these beautiful saints whose work is enlightening hearts even today. And on so many levels, therefore, Allah has made them baki. He's given them baqa. And these are the people who are the anamta alaihim. These are the people, I mean, a lot of beautiful friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are not known. They're not famous. But it's not about that. It's about their goodness that has made them immortal. It is the goodness for them, the hereafter has become only light. And so I will just bring my my talk to a close now, where say the Saint Nasser is saying, no one reaches God without going through the gate of Al-Fana and realizing the truth that in ourselves we are nothing, ontologically speaking, and that God alone is reality as such. It is through Al-Fana that human beings gain the truth of certainty, Haqqal Yaqeen. The person in whom such a truth has become all-pervasive is called muhakkik, literally the person in whom truth has become realized. So, therefore now, this person has become embellished with the qualities of God, realizing fully that the order of the Prophet given in the Hadith, qualify yourself with the qualities of Allah, takhallaqu bi akhlaqillah. Such masters as Ibn Arabi consider the muhakkik to possess the highest rank among Sufis. So now, again, we close our circle and we close our talk today with the goodness that we want to acquire, the an'amta alaihim that we want, who have been blessed with the blessings of God, are the people who go on the path of takhallaqu bi akhlaqillah, adopting the qualities of Allah, which we always repeat is the true intention of our life, that qurbatan ilallah means to be close to Allah, and to be close to Allah is becoming like Allah. And when we become like Allah, we don't become ourselves, we become like Allah. And so the self doesn't exist, and only He exists. And then He exists through us, and He does His work through us. And for that, we have to keep working on this journey from Nafsul Amara to Nafsul Zakiya and Nafsul Mutmainna. And these will then become the people who are the rare gems of God, who are, the free. If anybody remembers this title of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, he is called Abul Ahrar, the father of the free, right? And so we see that the libasul harir, the garment of the free, we see mystics and awliya Allah, we see Imam Hussain alayhi salam as the Abul Ahrar, the father of the free. And we see that this freedom is the freedom that Imam Ali is talking about. And Imam Ali is talking about the freedom of the one who worships God, who understands that God is worthy of that worship. So in today's talk, we touched upon the gift of those who have been blessed by Allah. And those who are blessed by Allah are the ones who go on a journey of self-purification. And through this purification, they are able to let go of the self and only let Allah exist, who is the haqq. And they are the free. And therefore, freedom becomes the ultimate gift. of those who are an'amta alaihim. I will end my session here and make a dua, and then I will close the recording. Oh Allah, we come to you in our flawed selves, in our broken selves, in our sincere yearning for the completeness that can only be achieved through you, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, help us to understand this journey. Help us to find the yearning to understand this journey and make us one of those of your friends who taste this freedom, who taste this gift that you have reserved only for your very, very special friends, Ya Allah. Let us not be one of those who are the losers. For what would be a greater loss than losing you, Ya Allah, losing the connection with you, Ya Allah, and being in distance from you, Ya Allah. As Imam Ali says, what will I do in hell that I may be able to bear the burning of the hell, but what will I do if I'm away from you? And as Imam Hussain alayhi salam says, what have I gained if I have lost you, and what have I lost if I have gained you, Ya Allah? Oh Allah, drench our hearts in your love and in your yearning and in your connectedness, Ya Allah, for that is the greatest gift of those who have been blessed. Ameen Ya Rabbal Alameen.